In this video, we're going to show you how to switch the bolt, the receiver, and the safety from right to left assembly. Let's begin by changing the bolt by removing the magazine and setting it aside. First, we are going to want to access the bolt by depressing the pin to open up our SRM 1216. Slide the bolt out and set aside the rest of the SRM 1216 for later assembly. First, we are going to want to remove the main pin from the bolt mechanism. Be sure to use the proper tools as to not damage the internal parts of your SRM 1216. Be sure to carefully hammer the pin all the way through the bolt. And set this pin aside for later. The top of the bolt should slide slightly. You're going to want to slide the bolt up to access the two top pins to remove those as well. Again, remember to use the proper tools as to not damage the internal mechanism of your 1216. Remove both right and left pins from the head of the bolt near the tip of the firing pin. Rotate the removed piece 180 degrees. Remove the top of the bolt, turn it over, and reinsert the right and left pin. Be sure to insert both pins all the way into the bolt so they are not protruding and smooth to touch. Set this piece aside for now and grab the rest of the bolt because we are going to remove the firing pin. To remove this smaller internal pin, you're going to want to depress the back end of your firing pin and jiggle it slightly, and it should fall out on its own. If not, feel free to insert a smaller tool, and it should fall free with little effort. This will allow you to remove the firing pin and the spring located inside the bolt. Next, we're going to remove the handle for the bolt by taking out the main pin and removing the handle to flip to the other side. Reinsert the pin so the handle to the bolt is now located on the left-hand side. Be sure to depress the pin completely so that it is smooth to touch. Now the handle to the bolt should be firmly placed on the left-hand side. Now we can reinsert the firing pin and spring. Be sure that the hole on the small internal steel block aligns with the bolt so that we can reinsert the pin. That should align with the back side of the firing pin and fall in place with ease. Next, take the top of the bolt that you set aside earlier and slide it onto the bottom. Take the main pin that we removed at the beginning of the bolt assembly and depress it so it is smooth to touch. Next, we are going to change the receiver from right to left. We are going to remove the two small pins from the closed side of the receiver. The front side should have two small pins, so be sure to depress it completely as to remove both of them. You're going to want to remove the second pin with a pair of pliers. Be very gentle as not damage either of the pins. Remove the casing and set it aside. The next step is to remove the receiver lever. When depressing the first small pin, the spring should activate and push the lever forth. Depress it completely and remove the lever. Remove the main pin with a pair of pliers, but again be careful as to not damage any of these pins. You'll notice there are two smaller pins that we also need to remove. Depress them both completely and hammer them through to the other side. Both of these pins are very small, so be careful not to lose or damage them. We are going to place these pins on the right hand side or the open end of the receiver. You are going to want to keep the longer pin protruding slightly so that it is level with the lever on the bottom of the receiver, as shown in the video. You're going to want to also do this with the smaller pin. You can use the lever as a leveling mechanism. Be sure that the lever moves freely. Take the spring and reinsert it into the lever. Take the main pin, insert it into the hole, and place it back on the bottom of the receiver. Be sure that the lever moves freely. Next, you are going to want to reinsert the receiver cover to the left-hand side of the receiver. Make sure to insert the receiver cover so that the notches fit together. Take the first pin and insert it into the back end of the receiver. Do not force the pin into place. Make sure that the holes align properly. Depress the pin completely so that it is inserted all the way into the hole. The second pin will be placed on top of the receiver cover, directly above the pin you just inserted. Depress this pin so that it is flush with the top of the receiver cover. The next, slightly simpler step will be changing the safety from the right to the left. You are going to want to depress the opposite end of the safety while moving it directly in between fire and safe. It should pop out. Flip it directly vertical and remove the safety. Reinsert on the other side, still vertical. And be sure to depress the small pin while pushing on the safety. It should pop into place and freely move from safe to fire. The final step is to reinsert the bolt and be sure that it is flush. You can now close and enjoy your SRM 1216 fixed on the left side.